Alright class, so today I'm going to be going over a cup handle pulling demonstration. We will be going over two specific handle styles. The first one is a traditional handle, and if you get closer, you have a traditional handle which is pulled from the top and then curved down, and then the tail of it is attached, just like this. Those are both traditional handles. These are called reverse pulled handles, and the way that these work is you pull from the bottom, they flip upside down on the top, and then they curve back in. Reverse handles are more so for like one finger or two fingers, and traditional handles are normally two or a whole hand in there, depending on the size of your hand. So, class, you'll need to be able to identify what is a traditional handle and what is a reverse pulled. Again, reverse pulled, traditional handle. So, you're going to start, I like to start with one piece of clay, about that size, it's the size of my hand. I'll roll it out, so it starts getting to the size of a coil. And when you roll a coil, you want to make sure that you go get it a full extension, because if you don't, you're only going to get, it's going to look really wobbly. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to take my coil, my thick coil, it's maybe about a little over an inch thick. I'm going to throw it down on an angle, flip it over, throw it down on the same thing. And then I'm going to roll it in just a little bit more. And that's going to round off those edges to make it look nice. Now I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to cut it about right there. That is going to be the beginning of my first handle. And my second one is going to be a little bit smaller, so I'm going to take this one. And fold it in. Bevel the edges. You want to try to get out those creases as much as you can. Cut that. So I have my two handles for my two cups. My larger one, that'll be my smaller one here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to determine where do I want my handle being attached. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this handle and I'm going to push it up against my pot. Now, your cups should be leather hard. They shouldn't be too, if they get too dry and they start getting white, they will not stick. So they need to be at the leather hard stage. You trim your pots. Right after you trim them, you attach your handles. So I'll take this handle, I'm going to push it up against my cup, and you can see how it leaves a little bit of an impression there. Now it's not flat, it actually looks like it's going to hug the cup. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the cup. Just some very simple markings. And that is where I'm going to slip and score the clay inside those markings. So I'm going to score the clay at first. You can get close, Eric, if you want. I'm going to score it. Both sides. Get a little bit of water on there, a little water on this. Give it a nice little rub down. Both sides. Score this again. Nathan, would you mind grabbing me a bucket and filling it halfway up with water? Thanks. So I'm going to score that. Score this section right here. I generally don't like my thumb. If I'm holding a cup, I don't want my thumb being over the rim. I want it to be a little bit lower. I think it looks kind of strange if it's attached at the very top. So I go down a little bit. So what I do now is I take this, the handle, I push up against, and I give it a little bit of a wiggle, and I push kind of firm on it. Now from this step, I'm going to keep this as vertical as I can. I'll take my finger, get it wet. I'm going to push down. And then I'm going to take my finger and go over it. Try to seal that handle to the cup. With a wet finger. Then I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to get this handle wet. Now if your cup's too wet, then it's not going to stick. But this is how I pull my handles. I do the peace sign, I put it on my thumb, just like this. You guys should be doing this with me. And then I put this in between, so it looks like that. So I go this way, this way. And you want to try to keep the handle as vertical as you can. And you want your hands nice and wet. It's pretty much just going to slick through. Once it takes the shape that you want, I normally clean my hands off the best I can. Want to get me a paper towel, Glenn? Thanks. I'll try to wash my hand off the best I can. Get a clean needle. Maybe cut just the very end of it. And then what I do is I take my 2 fingers right here to support it so it doesn't sag over. And then I let it lean over. Just like that. I make sure it's straight. You want to make sure the cup is straight. And I will just take my needle and I will go underneath the clay and try to score it. I don't know if you can see that section there. And I'll take my thumb. I'm going to push down right where I scored. And I get my thumb wet and I go over it just like that. If you want to cut it at an angle, you can. You don't have to have it looking like that. Go over that, make it look nice and smooth. If you want to put a hole in it or something, you can. You can do whatever you want to these handles. And then, that handle looks kind of weird. It just comes out, you know? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thumb, I'm going to go on the inside, and I'm just going to push up on it. Like this. Doesn't that look quite a bit nicer now? Looks like the hand would actually fit on there. So that is my first cup. Now what type of handle is this? Traditional. This is a traditional handle. That's my first one. I'll set that aside. The reverse handle is a little bit different. Instead of going down and then straight down, it's actually going to come up and flip upside down. It's not just an upside down traditional, it's actually a reverse. You're actually reversing the way that it goes over. Okay. So same thing, but this time I'm going to go from the very bottom right here. I'm going to push down. Now what's the next step?
Slip and score.
Slip and score, very good. So I'll mark it, mark where I want it. And then I'm going to slip and score this section here. Get it wet. Get wet, score it. Score it. Do you end with a score or a slip? What do you guys think? What do you think, Mia? You always end with a score. Just think about high school sports. You always want to end with a score. So now, next step, I'm going to take it, and now what? I push on it, give it a little bit of a wiggle, right? It helps it stick. Now what do I do?
Put water around it.
Yep, so I push the clay, try to get it attached the best I can. my hand wet. So you can see how it looks like that. Now I'll get my finger wet and I'll go over this. And I'm gonna try to seal this on. This is our good friend Mr. Lee here, very famous Utah artist.
He's gonna pull a handle.
Now I'm gonna get the handle wet. Just like I said before, take your 2 fingers, put it on your thumb. This goes in between, just like that, and then you pull. You want it to be nice and wet, and your hand's just slicking through. You're not pulling very hard. Your hand is literally just slicking through. Just like that. Once you get the right thickness, or the desired thickness, it's different for everyone. What I'm gonna do is I will cut it off and wash my hands. I don't want my hands to be nasty, so I'm gonna dry them off the best I can. I'm gonna cut a section of it off. Now with your reverse handles, you think that you don't need that much clay. You're gonna need more clay than you think. Because when this flips over, for some reason it's like the length is deceiving. So maybe a little bit less than that, maybe right there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna just tilt it up and attach it. It's actually gonna be attached to the back side, right there. So what I do is I'll take it, I'll put this upside down, just like this. And then what I do is I take my finger while it's dry, push down. Whoops. And I got a nick on it. You got to be really careful not to nick it, because it doesn't, you can see those marks for a long time and it doesn't look good. So the same thing is I'm going to take my finger while it's wet, rub it down, and then at the very end what you want to do is I'll take my thumb and I'll push up just the back of it, just a little bit, and then I'll pull this up. And that is my handle. Now, this is a traditional, this is a reverse pull, that's a traditional handle. And the hardest thing is attaching your handle at the right time. If it's too wet, your rim is gonna really scrunch in and it's not gonna hold its shape. If it's too dry, it's not gonna stick and your handle is gonna crack off. So at the leather hard stage, right after you trim it, you put your handle on. Don't make the mistake of putting a handle on and then having to trim it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.